2, 1.
Live from the Rob Christensen Radio Network Satellite Studio, it's Jim and Rob Overanalyze the Movies. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Jim and Rob Overanalyze the Movies, the live video podcast for people who love to talk about movies as much as they love watching them. Welcome to the show tonight, everybody. We're going to be taking a look at the Swedish war mystery, maybe thriller, romance, family, reconciliation kind of flick from 2018 called The Unthinkable. From IMDb, in Swedish film collective's Crazy Pictures feature, Den blomstertid kommer, or The Unthinkable, Sweden faces a mysterious attack while Alex tries to reconcile with his father Bjorn and reunite with the love of his youth, Anna. That apparently was a thing. Anyway, it was written by or directed by a collective called Crazy Pictures Collective, comprising Hannes Krantz, Albin Peterson, Ole Dolan, Rasmus Rasmark, and Victor Danell, or Danell. I'm not 100% sure. It was written by that collective and the lead actor, the star of the film, Christopher Nordenroth, who starred with it, as well as Jesper Barkselius and Lisa Henny, amongst other Swedish actors. So that's kind of the broad strokes of the film. Now let's get into its politics, its production, both on the production side and on the story side. So on the production side, would this earn a restream stamp? No. As a matter of fact, I think it canceled other people's restream stamps. It's literally a collective of 5 guys directing the picture. As well on production, is it a union picture? You know what? All I can really say is, I don't think so, but I don't know. This film was originally posted as it got its first funding on Kickstarter. In the end, it had about a $2 million budget. It may be a unionized picture, it may not be. I couldn't find out myself. All right, so I'll just leave it as a question mark, whereas on the reframe, it was a big X. Story-wise, what about the Bechdel test? I didn't, you know what, you guys may correct me later in the show, but I did not see an example of two women characters talking about anything other than a man. So that leaves us to, is there class consciousness here? Any kind of class analysis? I'm gonna say no. Although folks may disagree with me, I certainly didn't see it. You know, were there working class people in it? Sure. But you need a bit more than that, you know? So with that out of the way, I think, what else do I have to say? You know what? I do want to remind everyone about our big show at the end of the month. We are going to be looking at Blade Runner and asking ourselves if it holds up. We do have a guest co-host there, Professor Matthew Flissvetter, rhymes with better. He's going to be on the show. He wrote Postmodern Theory and Blade Runner, a book I'm reworking my way through right now. I feel like I'm now studying for a test or something. Anyway, I wanted to put that back on your radar. Of course, ask y'all, if you enjoy this kind of content, maybe throw down a like. And then I think that's about it. We do have a bit of a treat for you coming quite shortly. But before that, I think it's really important to welcome my co-host, somebody I hope will open the door for me as I'm banging outside. The man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Jim Chleboyko.
Well, I guess we'll find out. See, with Matthew's book, it feels like he's got a built-in advantage because he gets to have Harrison Ford on the cover of an academic textbook. Well, probably not a textbook. He would probably argue it's a book about theory, but you still get to have...
It's close.
Harrison Ford on the cover, which automatically gives you more Harrison Ford than any other textbook cover ever, I think. So,
I suspect you're right there.
Yes.
How you doing, my friend?
Good. Yeah. Just did our Mother's Day thing, and yeah, it was a little bit of running around, but no, it was all good. Beautiful sunny day, a little cool, but the yard work, the hunting for birds, all kinds of stuff. How about you?
You know what? I've been remarkably productive over the last couple of days. Plus, met with you yesterday, a socially distanced outdoor catch up, which was wonderful. Got some sun then, got some sun today.
Yeah.
It's been, I gotta say, I've really enjoyed this weekend, and I'm really looking forward to tonight's show.
I wonder if I got any color. I'm comparing my skin tone to the white sheets of paper. Doesn't look like it, but anyway. Feels good.
Slightly.
Got my vitamin D.
At this, exactly. And that's really all we need, isn't it? Just get that vitamin D and then go. All right, we're all fine. Okay, everybody, I think now is the time, Jim, before we get on with the show, get on with our treat. Let's first of all see who's in the chat.
Good idea.
First of all, we got Vlad65, who's actually got his own video up, which I will link down below. Just got the link earlier. That is so cool. Hey, Vlad, I'm really excited about your launch too, and I'm looking forward to having you as a guest host on our show. I hope you'll still say 1/3 of the Balmoral Street Research Irregulars, but that was just awesome to see that email just before I started the show.
That was quick. Yeah, he was talking about it the other day, and I haven't checked my email today. I've been racing around doing, calling stepmom and doing everything else, so I'll definitely check out afterwards. So sorry about that, Vlad there.
I'm just excited. I'm glad he did it. I'm glad if we had anything positive to do with that, that's just awesome. And welcome to the scene, Vlad. All right, who else do we got? Richard L. and Katie. I'm assuming Katie is with you. Yes, she is. Yes. And let's say hi to Katie. And she's already jumping into the commentary, and we'll just hold. We may circle back on this wonderful comment, this wonderful apt on point comment. What is it, Richard? This week's episode, his smart remark is should be called Jim and Rob Overthink the Unthinkable. Not bad at all. All right. With that out of the way, folks, we've got a bit of a treat for you. We're going to start this, and this is going to be, once or twice a month, somewhere, maybe 3 times every 2 months, something like that. But we're going to invite friends of the show, people with their own channels, their own takes, people who are a lot more aware of what's coming out than Jim and I, never mind dates and stuff. We're going to ask them, and we're honored to have as our first person to tell us about what we're called, not first thoughts, sorry guys. What's on your radar? What's on your radar? It's Jim, this guest, not only is he our first What's on Your Radar guest, he's our first red carpet correspondent. First, I believe he's our first trivia game master. What else? Oh, he's our first What Talks About, where we went on and on and on for several hours, some posted, some not, about another film. So anyway, with that, if that isn't enough hint for you, everybody, let's welcome to the show, let's welcome him back, our friend Brian from Dragon Movie Guy. How you doing, man?
Hey, everybody. How's it going?
Pretty good. Good to see you here, dude.
Good to see you. It's a beautiful Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there, and all the families celebrating and honoring mom.
Very sweet. Of course, folks, you can find, and I'll have a link to Brian's channel in the description of this video. You can also find him on Instagram, where he's most active, at Dragon Movie Guy. So, anyway, I don't know. I think we should probably let's just hit it. Let's get these things up, eh? Does that work for you, Brian?
Absolutely. And what's on my radar? It's so Gary Berghoff. It's radar.
Ooh, deep back in the day cut. Props
Deep
for
cut.
you on that. Can't call that a hot take. That's just a Bravo cut. That's a Bravo deep cut. All right, give me a second here while I queue up your first one. Want to make sure I put you in the right place so that it all kind of makes sense.
Here come the choppers.
Oh.
Yay! The choppers! Run
Actually,
for the chopper!
I don't hear anything.
You know what? We're kind of stuck on this one. We're going to do it like this, and
Okay.
I'm going to put there, and I'll be the one who gets cut in half when something comes up. All right. Yeah, let's start with, you've got 5 movies. We're starting from the bottom, if memory serves.
Yeah, so I did a top 10 list of movies I'm most excited for this summer, but for this for here I thought it'd be easier just to do my top 5 on that most excited for summer movie season list. And starting with number 5, I have The Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard. 2 possessives in there. The Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard,
Wow.
Say that 5 times fast. That is Ryan Reynolds, Samuel L. Jackson, and Salma Hayek as the titular wife in that one. I have not seen the first film in this. It was one of those that came out a couple years ago, and I remember seeing a few trailers, and I was kind of excited for it. I just sort of, just sort of came and went before I realized it was out. And then seeing this trailer, though, for The Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard, it looks really well done. I mean, anything for me involving Ryan Reynolds being a smartass, Deadpool, free guy, anything along those lines is going to be good. And then you throw Samuel L. Jackson in there as well. I mean, he's been everything. He's been a Jedi. He's been in Pulp Fiction. You put those 2 guys together and then somehow have Salma Hayek in the middle of all that. I think this looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. Just, straight up action film, shoot 'em up, blow 'em up. And of course, 2 smartasses being smartasses together. That if ever there was a movie that spoke to me, that was like the center of my bullseye, that would probably be this movie.
Is that what
Yes.
you're saying?
two guys who are great at being smartasses, both with and against each other. I'm guessing, like I said, I've not seen the first film, but when you watch the trailer, you can see they had chemistry, and they're 2 huge stars. So I just love the idea of these 2 guys together in a love triangle type thing with Salma Hayek. Looks pretty good.
Cool. What were
Quick
you gonna say, Jim?
aside. Quick aside. I was watching a PBS show, which I'm notorious in this house for doing, something to do with animals or genealogy or a combination. I'm not sure. Anyway, at the start of the show, they always have those sponsorships. And this week, for the very first time, I saw Ryan Reynolds' Mint Mobile sponsorship at the start of a sober PBS show, and it was actually pretty funny. He brought his usual smart-ass game to it, and I kind of had to because it's usually the same things. It's Viking cruises or whatever, and it was him, and I just kind of was taken aback. But yeah, it was cool to see.
He's sort of turning into the new Shaquille O'Neal, where he's just he's sponsoring all these little things here and there because he's got that vodka company. There was a big controversy down here. If you've ever heard of Peloton, it's sort of like a very bougie exercise bike with
club.
a live stream basically hooked up to it. And the whole idea is that there was a year in the life of where this husband gave this wife a Peloton for Christmas, and she was so excited. And then, beginning of the year she's thin, end of the year she's
Care
thin.
about me.
Yeah, and it became this big thing.
my-
The Today Show was all over it, and it was like a thing. It was right before COVID hit, And it was this whole thing, and people were offended, and the poor actress she's just this working actress. And so Ryan Reynolds got a hold of her and brought her onto his vodka company commercial. And it was like her friends just talking like, "Oh, you so deserve a shot of whatever." And yeah, it was really funny. But yeah, Ryan Reynolds seems to be going everywhere, and now Mint Mobile too as well. Absolutely, that one's coming on June 16th.
Sounds good. All right. Well, Vlad is predicting next will be the hitman's wife's daughter's bodyguard, or perhaps son.
And then maybe bring in Kevin Costner, and then we could have the hitman's wife's daughter's bodyguard's bodyguard.
Perhaps. So, and you said it was coming out when, Brian?
That's a good one.
June 16th.
Gotcha. Okay.
If my notes are correct. Yes.
Okay. All right. And as my overlays, my little lower thirds are based on your notes, here's hoping.
Yes. Next one on my list, number four on my list is F9. No, not the key on your keyboard, but Fast and the Furious 9. If you're a fan of the Fast and Furious series, like I am, it's car chases, it's girls in thongs and tight jeans and all that kind of stuff, and it's a lot of themes of found family and Vin Diesel kind of growling at the camera as only Vin Diesel can do in his bass baritone. We're all family, almost like a pseudo Rocky sort of a voice to him. This one looks like it's more of the same that you gotten used to from the Fast and Furious series. They're bringing a lot of people back, but the big addition this time through is John Cena joining the cast as Dom's brother.
Sure. I could totally see the family resemblance there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's sort of interesting seeing the Rock having joined that series 4 or 5 movies ago now, and then they had this guy named Roman Reigns in the last Fast and Furious movie, Fast 8. So they're kind of expanding that wrestling, that WWE, WWF influence on the Fast and Furious series. Also back is Charlize Theron, having another weird haircut in this one. She had cornrows in the last one, which was sort of weird seeing Charlize Theron with cornrows. But this one, I forget exactly. I think it was like a little wedge haircut. She kind of reminded me of Indiana Jones 4.
Kate Blanchett.
Kate Blanchett's hair, that little weird.
Louise Brooks.
Yes.
Louise Brooks, It Girl, 20s.
Yeah, yes, that very 1920s look to her. I believe she had that haircut in this trailer, so it's sort of the second movie in a row.
Quickly corrected us what it is. Nope, we've got nothing.
It's but it's the second movie in a row with Charlize Theron having a really weird hairstyle. Hopefully, she'll be better in this role than she was last time. I love Charlize Theron, but that was not a great movie and not a great fit for her. So I'm really looking forward to that movie coming out on June 25th.
All right, June 25th for F9. Fast
F9.
9.
Yeah, it's such a big tornado. It's F3, 4, 5. It's F9. Yes.
Yeah. Vlad's referred to it as the vamp.
The vamp.
The haircut. Yeah. I think it's like a. Yeah, I gotta Google up Louise Brooks. Anyway, okay, throw down. What do you got?
Number three. Number 3 on my list is Free Guy. It is a Ryan Reynolds movie where he is basically playing he's playing a non-playable character in a World of Warcraft. I mean, not World of Warcraft, but it's like a big multiplayer, multi-online type thing. It's one of those sort of like different games.
Royale
we go in, blow up stuff, steal, rob banks,
Apex
and it's
Legends.
Yeah, all these different
CS:GO.
Yes, all these different ones where you're robbing and whatever. And he plays just some random guy walking around.
GTA.
And yes, Grand Theft Auto, absolutely. And he somehow becomes self-aware. It's sort of like Pleasantville, where he kind of becomes self-aware, and he starts interacting with some different real life people in the game, and and yeah, so hilarity ensues. But you know, Ryan Reynolds as a video game character, sort of Wreck-It Ralph meets Pleasantville, I would say.
Who's his co-star? Who's his co-star in that? Is it Rose Byrne? I want to say it is.
Yeah, it's Jodie Comer.
Oh,
is what she's listed as.
Then it's not
and
Rose Byrne.
yeah, and Taika Waititi is listed as Antoine. I didn't see him in the trailer, but I remember seeing.
But he's not voicing this. He's the big bad guy who runs the company that runs the game.
Oh, you did your research. More research than I did. He's listed as Antoine.
Yeah, I might be looking forward to this movie as well.
Yeah, and this is another one of those films. All three of these films were actually F9 and Free Guy were both ones that were supposed to come out last summer. Yeah. So I've been watching these same trailers for these two movies for over a year now, year and a half.
The poster says it came out back in December.
Yes.
How did I miss it? I was looking forward to it so much.
So many of these 2020 movies now in 2021, we're finally starting to get them, and I guess we're sort of we paid the piper early on with 2020 not getting any blockbusters, and now 2021, the back end of it, we're just getting inundated every week with bigger blockbusters coming up starting in June. Really starting in June.
5 years from now, people will be saying, I saw an indie in COVID. I saw 8 of them.
Yeah. Well, heck, we're getting 4 different MCU movies this year, and the first one hasn't even hit theaters yet.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, good point. So when's this one coming out?
This one is coming up, if we see it on the graphic, or I just pull up my thing here. This one's hitting theaters on August 13th.
Excellent.
August 13th.
All right, everybody.
Assuming everything.
Go.
Yeah.
Yes, assuming everything goes according to plan.
Yes.
Let us continue to assume, because that's played out for us so well in the last.
Yes, we've already been asking, so let's assuming as well.
There we go. Ooh,
so number 2 on our list. Number 2 on our list is Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. This is the 25th MCU movie. It's the second one coming out this year. This is the first predominantly Asian cast in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It is basically the heir apparent to the Ten Rings, which was mentioned in Iron Man 1 and as well as Iron Man 3. The heir apparent being raised by the dad and sort of going away and then coming back and kind of doing his version of Rumspringa and coming back and deciding whether or not to take the mantle of the Ten Rings or being his own man and being a hero. So I'm not really familiar with his character, but like any Marvel movie, you watch the trailer and there's a lot of cool martial arts in there. Obviously CGI as
and
well.
Awkwafina.
Yeah, Awkwafina as well. She was like really the one person in the trailer that I recognized from other stuff. But it looks like a lot more just basic level martial arts, actual punching and kicking, and not just, putting a person's head on a CGI body in actual, not just people firing lasers from their hands, but in actual people learning martial arts and fighting. So I think this looks really good.
Didn't seem to be, at least in the trailers I've seen, like a lot of wire work either.
Yeah, no, not too Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon as much. Looks pretty basic. I mean, I think in some ways it's sort of a back to basics because we sort of, after Avengers Endgame, there's no way to really top that. So what better way to take the opportunity to go back to basics and have a little bit more of a have a basic origin story and bring in new characters than Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings. Gotcha. That one comes out on September 3rd. My list kind of goes to the end of September because usually summer movies technically start in May, and they're starting now in April. Avengers was in April, so because we're not getting them those as early, I looked at the calendar and went, well, technically summer goes until the end of September or close to it, so let's just count through September as being our summer movies for this year.
Nope, that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
All right. Next, here, let me clear this nonsense off. Pardon me. And you're next. What's your big? Give
And-
us number one.
Number one on my list is Black Widow, the movie that we probably should have gotten 5 years ago, if not for I can't remember his name, but the guy that was in charge over Kevin Feige at Marvel, Saul Perlmutter is his name. If you read
That's
up on
a hot
Saul,
take.
yeah, that guy. Obviously he's successful enough to have gotten where he got in the business, but he really didn't like the idea of female superhero-led movies. And in fact, if I remember right, Black Widow was actually one of the few characters from Avengers 1 that did not get her own superhero doll,
yeah.
like her own action
Her
figure.
own setup.
Yeah,
Her own
so
Oh wait, no, I misunderstood. Sorry, man. 1 second. I misunderstood. I thought you meant like setup movie, and I was like, oh well, Ronan, who cares?
yeah, well, yeah, her and Hawkeye didn't
Hawkeye.
get their own movies, but she didn't even get her own action figure for the first Avengers movie.
What?
That blows
Yeah,
my.
Yeah, it was one of those girls don't buy toys sort of things. Anyway, so Saul Perlmutter
Yeah,
was the
such-
guy.
such- yeah.
Thankfully, and obviously Kevin Feige's proven himself to be, Kevin Feige. So as he's gotten more powers, when the MCU has kind of gotten more diversified, and finally got Captain Marvel and Black Panther. So now finally, after her character's dead, we're getting her solo movie. and we're getting it over a year after it was originally supposed to come out last year. So the one I've been really looking forward to, really hoping to see, and even seeing the same trailers over and over again, because they cut 3 full trailers of it. So, but yeah, so that one's coming out July.
She's dead?
Oh,
Well, wait a second. Are we talking about, because Saul Perlmutter, there is a Nobel Prize-winning astrophysicist called Saul Perlmutter,
Yeah, I
who
think
is
it would be
very
a
much
different dude.
alive. He is an is.
Oh.
So who are we? Either that or Nobel Prize-winning
I might be thinking-
astrophysicists are
He's a
sexist
double
AF
threat.
and has
Yeah, no, I
pull
might-
in Hollywood. Is able to say,
Yeah.
I'm not going to have that. Do you want physics to work right around your building? I don't know. I'm just making whatever.
Yeah.
We'll have to look that up.
Sorry. Ike Perlmutter. Isaac Perlmutter.
Isaac Perlmutter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Apologies to the Nobel laureate that I just.
Perlmutter family.
Yes, the whole. Yeah. It'd be one heck of a productive family dinner every week.
He's still
Yeah,
the
Ike
chairman,
Perlmutter.
interestingly enough.
Yeah, they did a bunch of stuff at Disney where they're kind of moving stuff. They kind of did the old Seinfeld thing where they promote and kind of got him out of the way.
He is a CEO emeritus.
Yes, yeah,
He's an
and so now.
emeritus.
And so now that, like for example, the whole thing with the Marvel TV shows and the Netflix shows, got some good feedback here and there. But the Netflix shows and then the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. show were not under Kevin Feige. That's why I didn't really tie in as much to the MCU before now. But the Disney Plus streaming shows are tying in under Kevin Feige and being more all together and copacetic.
Would you say that made them all, how can I put this? That kind of made them all, they're all part of
the same universe,
phase.
the same.
Well, not
yeah.
just the same universe, but a phase. Like the WandaVision and Falcon and the Winter Soldier are part of the phase 4, not just television shows. Kind of meet canon. They are actually a phase of it. It's like, here is your 3-hour miniseries. Here's
Yeah.
your-
Well, and it's sort of interesting too because they originally announced the Phase 4 lineup in 2019, and in there was 5 feature films and 5 streaming shows on Disney Plus, of which all 3, Loki and Falcon and Winter Soldier and WandaVision were all included in there, and they bounced back and forth between each of them. And I need to go back and look at, because they redid the whole Phase 4 lineup just this past week.
Yeah.
So I'm actually working at my next video instead of working on my level of excitement for all of those feature films. but I need to go back and compare the two and see where each one was laying out in the order and see where those. Yes, because obviously they moved up the streaming shows, WandaVision and Falcon and the Winter Soldier specifically to be. They moved those up to be a lead up to Black Widow. So order changed a little bit in there. I don't know if it's going to affect really the storytelling in there, but obviously I think WandaVision was originally supposed to be kind of before Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, because Wanda is supposed to be Wanda Maximoff's Black Widow. Yeah, it's supposed to be in. It's supposed to be in there.
I feel like I'm in a sticky web of dates and stuff that I.
Yeah.
Where's the spider? Kill me now.
Yeah. And
Listen, we do have a question from the chat, and this is a movie. Actually Jim first put on our radar, but wondering if you've heard of anything new about it. It's The Green Knight.
I haven't heard anything of Green Knight. I've heard of Moon Knight, which is a character that I wasn't aware of until
it's more The Green Knight from medieval Dark Ages legend. That's the way I'm thinking of it. Like it's an Arthurian legend. But who does it star? Is it that Patel? I want to say kid.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's probably in his early 30s now.
Dev
He's got
Patel.
2 children of its own. Thank you.
Oh, Dev Patel? Yeah, Dev Patel was great. He was in Slumdog Millionaire, I think?
Yeah. Yes. And then Lion, which was actually a sort of what I thought was an underrated movie. I ended up watching it, and it was great.
Wasn't he the hero in What About Pie? Or no, What About Pie?
Life of Pi?
Life of Pi.
I'd rather watch What About Pie.
There is a
Richard Dreyfuss, Dev Patel. Yes, yeah.
It's a road movie where it's a rickshaw, but it's also mystery and a whodunit and all right.
Yes, Life of Pi.
We definitely need to get Richard Dreyfuss in the MCU. That's for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, that one's coming to theaters on July 31st. The Green Knight. I have not watched the trailer on it yet, but it's listed as being.
You should.
Along with Alicia Vikander and Joel Edgerton are also listed as being in the film.
Yeah. It looks...
All right.
So add that to
our radar document. Listen, before we give you the bums rush out of you, complimentary pop and the hook comes out.
The big hook.
Is there? What the heck is that? Well,
I think an alien species just passed by or something. Can you hear it?
Yeah. Can people hear that in our in the feed?
It sounds like a like a sink garbage disposal or something.
Yeah.
The garbage disposal? From my audio?
I
don't know.
Hear it in the audio. You know what? We're gonna keep going. Let's not get bogged down in. Yeah, apparently folks can hear it, but we're just gonna keep going. I can always just crank up the music a little louder. Okay, this is a groovy tune. I could just. We should have it, Jim. We're gonna have an intermission where I do like a whole DJ segment.
It's like our version of Laughing.
Pin in and out.
All right, enough of that. Brian.
You gotta do our version of Sock It To Me? Sock It To Me?
What's gonna be... is there any other mystery one where you're kind of... Okay, it didn't quite make the top 5, but you're like kind of... Maybe it should have.
Number 6 on my list was The Wrath of Man, which is Guy Ritchie's latest film. Just watched it. I did a written review and a video review, which is up on Dragon Movie Guy. I really liked The Wrath of Man. It was really well done. I'm calling it the Ritchie.
Movie, Jim, you and I couldn't see.
Yeah, I got a special link. It's not streaming here either. It was just in theater. It's just in theaters, even here in the U.S.
Something we can't have here.
Yeah.
Anyway, yes, tell us about your Richie Renaissance.
Yes,
Your
the Rich-
Renaissance.
Yeah, the Richie
Richie-sance.
Sans, the Richie Renaissance, if you
So
will.
bad.
Yeah, it is. It's Jason Statham as a guy who goes to work for. They call them cash trucks, but really they're armored trucks. And there's a robbery string of people stealing and then murdering the drivers of these cash cars. Is also what they call them. Yeah, think about it as Heat meets. Heat meets a bunch of other heist takers. That was what I was thinking. Heat meets takers. That's basically what this is. It's a little bit darker than what you would expect from most Guy Ritchie films, but it's really well done, and Jason Statham, so that always helps
Gotcha.
too.
All right. Well, on that note, Brian, we're giving you the bums rush out of here. But Smart Remarks is, man, thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, thank you.
Really appreciate you. Yeah, it's one of those things Jim and I have been talking about, hey, we really should be more on top of some of this stuff. I've always felt so, but Jim and I never did anything about it because it's just not the way our brains work. But, oh God, we know about the Green Knight, or about, like there's some films where it's like, I've been waiting for this for 6 years. It went in development on. It was greenlit.
Yeah, basically all 5 of these films are ones that were my version of the Snyder Cut. I couldn't have cared less about the Snyder Cut other than it was a superhero movie. But yeah, this has me as excited as Snyder fans were for the Snyder Cut. So
Cool. Well, listen,
except I hope these are actually good as opposed to Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Ooh, somebody was reaching for another hot. What's that? What's that again? What do we call it? Hot take.
Hot take.
Alrighty. Again, thanks very much. DMG. Thank you so much for being such a first so many times on our channel. And here you are again, coming through for us. We really appreciate it. And I will, like I said, everyone, you know what? Not only will I put a link to his channel, I'll put a link to his the Guy Ritchie review he's referring to.
My top 10 video is on there too. My top 10 most anticipated movies of summer too.
Sounds
yes.
all right. Excellent, my friend. And then, of course, we'll leave you with Katie's smart-ass comment. Jason Statham in a Guy Ritchie film?
Yeah.
Alrighty. Again, thanks so much. Of course, it's
Thank
one
you
of
for
those
having
times
me.
where it's like, I have your coat. You can go now. Bye, man.
See you, Brad.
All right. You know what? I love having company, Jim. It's always fun.
Yeah.
You know what? You know what? So glad Brian could make it. Of course, can I figure out a way to remove him? No, because there you go. Now he's truly out of here. He's pushed out the back. He's got his car. We did validate his parking, folks.
There we go.
All right.
Crossing borders.
Okay, let's actually, you know what? Let's get back to the movie we were originally talking about, which I believe is, DMG is in the house.
Wow, that's seamless.
Smooth, my friend. I like the way. What's up, everybody? All right.
Well, it's that thing you just come off stage and you're like, oh, that was good. And you're all jazzed and you want to like, hey, let's.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, everybody, we're now going to get into it. I want to give everyone a heads up. Jim and I, as constant CQI, as the corporate types call it, constant quality improvement. We're going. They've made a couple of tweaks in the way we do things. We're still starting with first thoughts, whether or not we think it's worth your time. Then we're going to kind of bundle the look, the performances, all that kind of thing into a discussion about craft. You know, the sound, the soundtrack, all that stuff will kind of be bundled into there. Then we'll move on to story as we usually do. And of course, the meaning. which ought to be an entertaining conversation considering this film. And look, we got, look at this. Ahmed. Joey Duck is in the house. Another great, again, we have the best chat on the internet, Jim. All right.
Yes, we do.
Are you ready?
Absolutely, yep.
All right. Why don't you throw down your first thoughts, Jim?
Sure. Well, this one was a kind of an interesting. I didn't know much about it. Didn't watch the trailer. All I knew was the movie poster, which showed various parts of Stockholm collapsing, I guess. Having said that, this was, for me, kind of two movies in one. What I wrote down here is Ordinary People meets War of the Worlds meets Chubby Rain. So so
brilliant.
So you can sort of tell where this is, partially going to go. But anyway, it seemed to be of two minds. They wanted they did the domestic part of it really well, but it didn't seem like the movie that we were sort of told about. And then when the second hour, or I guess sometime in the second act, when the action kicked in, that sort of reprieved it. Part of the issue for me is a whole bunch of characters that don't communicate very well. You can't just have everyone missing each other all the time. You need somebody to connect, and I think nobody was connecting for that first hour. Then when the invasion happened, it gave them stuff to do. There's a lot in this, almost too much, and we can talk about that. I didn't realize that the directing situation until today, that it is sort of a collective. On Wikipedia, the direction is Crazy Pictures, like that's the director. But anyway, so I thought it was sort of two movies, maybe even three, mashed into one movie, and it was a little bit confusing. But it got better as it went along, I felt. How about you?
I'm probably a little harsher than you are, Jim. I do agree. It's like, this is not the movie in the poster. Definitely not the movie in the poster, not the movie in the trailer. My bad. I think I implied aliens, but it was really more of a mystery, which was some BS Russians, I guess. I found it. I agree with you. I really did think there was almost a part of me up until it, which did impress me, how they were able to bring it together by the final act. It's like, oh, these actually do come together. But up to about the halfway point, I was still going, this is like the actor went to this collective and said, hey, I want to make this kind of family drama about communication and not keeping in touch and, the family and what could have been and our memories and whatnot. And they're like, sure. Can we put in, can we put in a disease and rain and Ascrit? Don't tell them anything. We'll just make that other part. You're running. Why am I running? Trust us. You got to run. This is where you feel like you're running. You're running from your problems. Meanwhile, they're CGIing a helicopter falling from the sky.
Yes.
I agree with you, Jim. I thought, boy, this could be a really engaging, like you said, a family drama, a story of reconciliation. A young man comes home to, make peace or try something new again. Or I made a note later during the film, and I'm like, disaster movies, not so much these apocalypse ones, but disaster movies really lean into okay, we're estranged and everything, but I got to go rescue my family. Here it's, now mind you, here it's the opposite. Nobody goes and rescues. They're all, in some ways, a lot of these players are pretty selfish. They rescue, but there's always, it's almost like they don't realize what's going on around them. No, let's have our family fight now, which is very much like a disaster movie. Yeah, I just found this too much of a hot mess. We'll get into some of the other politic of it later, when we're talking about the meaning. But yeah, I agree with you. It's almost like pick a movie, guys. Really, boys. pick a movie. I did get invested in the second half, unwillingly to a degree, because so many of these characters are just unlikable and written that way. Reasonably well written, but I don't know. Jim, I had a lot of problems with this film. I can't, like, I got into it near the end, in part because there's such extremes. You can't help but I gotta admit, if we hadn't set this up as our movie for this week, I would have turned it off 10 minutes in, and I gotta admit, I'm looking back and I'm going, yeah, I didn't miss that much. I missed a little something. I'm glad I forced my way through it, but I'm not saying, boy, I'll remember this forever. And if I watched this otherwise, I would forget it immediately. The only reason I remember some of the stinkers we've watched, Jim, is because we talk about it afterwards. Anyway, that's kind of there's my look at it. Oh, excuse me, terrible belch. Jim, what do you think? Is it worth your time, or?
You know, I've been thinking about the way this question, and obviously, is it worth your time? Is puts it out there. Another way to think about this is if you have 10 other things to watch, because you can't watch everything. Should you watch this one at the expense of something else you might want to watch or rewatch? Really,
it's about the opportunity cost.
Yes,
because this is 2 hours you don't get back. 2 hours and 10 minutes.
So I'd say, and I'm usually pretty easy on movies, I'd say no. I mean, we'll talk about it. There's always a reason to key into a movie, and I hate to be totally like, give it a complete thumbs down or what have you, but this one, I there's other things out there that other great movies that you're never going to watch just because of the nature of time. But it's finite. So I would say something else instead.
Yeah, that's a great way of looking at it, Jim. I am a little surprised. I was thinking about that. I'm surprised in your answer. While I agree with it 100%, I was thinking about you and I have talked about before, and I include this movie. There are praiseworthy, like, there's some good stuff in here. I just couldn't say, oh yeah, you should watch it. It's got some rough parts, but totally watch it. Most people, I think, would rightly so come back and say, well, thank you very much. I could have. And you're right. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff you could rewatch that would be a better use of your time. Yeah. And it's not even, you know what? It's funny, Jim. It's not even, I think of The Quake, which in some ways is similar, but I'm like, so you kill 2 hours. It's not as good as The Wave, but it's better than this.
Yeah. I mean,
including
another way to put
the
it,
lame, flawed father and the ridiculous. He still saves everyone, and the mother does.
Yeah.
Sorry for those who haven't seen Quake.
What
can I do?
The thing too is when you're watching a foreign movie, you're giving a couple eyeballs to something that's foreign, and they measure all this stuff too. And it's, you're just adding to your Swedish film oeuvre or what have you. I mean, so that's not to say it's totally wasted time. I hate to be too harsh on something like this, but I mean, there's just, my PVR is, it's like one of those old suitcases that's about to sprawling open because I've got so many old movies in it and stuff like that. And I always think, what determines what you see? Like, is it fate or is it mood, or, am I in the mood for All the President's Men, or am I in the mood for, Chucky 4? It's just, it all depends.
Maybe this is a way we can capture both our opinion then. For folks who have stumbled, they've come across this video, they're not going to go any further into the spoiler zone, or they might. we're telling you this. If there's some or quality films that you probably enjoy in your queue, and you're thinking, maybe I should check this out. It looks like an easy watch. Skip this. Go to the better films in your queue. That time will be better spent than on this. Would that be a good?
That's a good. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Perfect. All right. Well, with that out of the way, I think we should move to The Craft, but maybe it's maybe a quick catch up with the chat just to see where everyone's at. My bad, folks. All right, we got Katie's smart remarks. Everyone's giving out the love. It's so good to see you, Ahmed. It's so good to see everyone in here. All right. Vlad says, Hour of the Wolf meets Independence Day. It's got to be Independence Day.
Midday, yeah. You correct yourself later.
Yeah. All right. Here's a comment that we should, Vlad, bring this comment back later. Bring this comment when we're talking about story or, if you can bring this comment back, yes, directing by committee. I want to remember this. Because and there's a few of these comments. Let's bring that back when we're talking about story. I'd love to get into that. I'm not 100% sure that's what we're seeing was multiple ideas. Like, remember, you got the collective and then you've got the actor. I suspect it really was, because it's not 8 movies in here. But we'll get more into that when we're talking about story. Okay, so Jelly, smart remark about put Cloverfield 4. And we've got Katie agrees with me about Quake, the Quake. And then Walt says, Vlad65 says, suitcase throwing open. And we just watched Kubrick's The Killing yesterday.
Oh, yeah. I've seen that. Yeah.
All right. Yes. So let's move on to, we'll start on the outside, like a film.
Sure.
Start on the outside, start talking about the craft, the look, the sound of it all, the performances. Jim, what was your take on the production values of this film?
Yeah, you know what? For something that probably relied quite heavily on computer effects, and again, when you're dealing with a movie from a small country, I compare what they do with what Canada's putting out, and I don't even know if Canada's done something this sort of science. I could be wrong. This sort of science fiction-y in a while, but part of the thing that delivers this movie so well is the look. I think it did. You can tell when something's a computer graphic, like the helicopters crashing that you mentioned, and things like that. But one really effective scene, although I wasn't quite getting it at the start, was basically the pile up on the bridge, and all this. It was almost sort of Blues Brothers worthy of all the cars smashing into each other. And I thought that was, production, so it had a good look. The description of the movie and something that I read said, during an unusually rainy summer in Sweden, wink, wink, referring to the rain, which later becomes...
I'll never be able to think about it without thinking about Chubby Rain.
Chubby Rain.
It's
so that,
done for me now. It's now even a bad, it's unfortunate, but now I'm thinking, it's like Chubby Rain, because they somehow managed to seed it. Anyway, continue.
Yeah, for those who don't know, Chubby Rain was the movie they were making during Bowfinger, unbeknownst to the Eddie Murphy character. So, so the look was good. It sounded good. They sort of had some there's a hymn, I have it down here, to do with Midsummer, because the whole thing, I'm sure we missed tons of Midsummer references and cultural themes and stuff. But there was one hymn called Den blomstertid nu kommer, and apparently that was,
which is the title.
Is it the title of the
Swedish
movie?
Title. The Swedish
Of
title
the movie? Okay.
Yeah.
So there was a lot going on. It's funny because Midsummer, the horror movie, the 3-hour horror movie that just came out a few years ago, but it's still fairly, still fairly fresh in the mind. So there are elements of it that made it look polished, and that had probably did more to deliver the movie than the sort of the story and the script, I think. Yeah. But in terms of the look and those kinds of aspects of craft. How about you?
Yeah. I'd agree. Like, I mean, I wrote it down beforehand. I was saying, I'm going to expect the standard indie cheats to make, to stretch your VFX dollar and your special effects dollar. So tighter, anytime you can put it in a forest, all of a sudden you only really have to, you don't have as much open sky to worry about. Set it at night. Don't have as much about that to worry about. Use lighting, use the environment, and they did all those things. And I think that's how they're able to, even some of the long shots were still kind of zoomed in and tight. So when the Prime Minister is getting blown up in the, folks, if you hadn't already told, we're well in the spoiler zone.
Yes.
But you know what? When Jim, the Prime Minister, I don't think maybe it's not the Parliament building, but it's definitely where the Prime Minister was.
Yeah.
Some government building. It's being blown up. It's actually kind of a tight shot. And it's seen through a car window. And then there's rain. So all of these things they use to, again, stretch their VFX budget. They did that really well. It was all in story. Like, it wasn't and now we will look at this key thing. Although we've been in a big wide open field, we'll hide under. Do you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't.
Yeah.
It all made sense. It fit. I thought that was really effective use of their budget.
Yes. Yeah.
And when they weren't, they did. I felt like I was in some small Swedish town and out in the country. Some of it, reminded me of the White Shell. I don't know if folks, that's a part of the Canadian Shield here in our province. Like, it really, right down to the hydro right of ways, with the so the power line areas. It had kind of a great feel, and I thought it was a well-crafted film. I was wondering if you noticed, or maybe it was just me, they used organ music a few times at key moments. And it was like, ripping off Interstellar, like, because it had that sort of dissonance, and it was like it's like, that's there's a bit of a cheat. But I may have been the only one who. I may be reading into it too much, or I may be the only one who thought that was in any way a thing.
I don't know if I remember that. I will say that it's the second movie in a row that had the sort of the lit, the little almost the analog lit map showing us where the bad guys were. So that happened in Love and Monsters, as sort of a way to tell the story, build tension. Here's where the bad guy is, this flashing red light, and they had it here as well. And that's, again, you're talking about saving money, and that's kind of, I noticed that because we were talking about it from last week's movie, when the father was sort of barricaded himself down in the station there,
the control room there,
the sub levels, and he's watching the bad guys sort of come in. So it's interesting to see what they do and the trickiness of it all.
I wonder if, it is like, it's still kind of, again, keep it tight, but it makes sense. The tight that made sense. I wonder if they, Like sometimes they're like kind of, you know what? We know where there's some good locations. We could do our own disaster, mystery invasion, aliens thing. Like there's a part of me wondering that they really did think it was going to be an aliens movie, and then they couldn't quite make it work. So they're like, you know, we only like it was Kickstarter that first got it going, and then they got. Like then all of a sudden they got and this would be more the committee I'd be worried about, other funders going, well, we already have an alien movie, what else do you got? And they're all sitting there again, okay, government conspiracy. You know, but regardless, like I mean the costumes made sense, the you know the everything kind of worked. The cars looked right. You know,
Volvos, a lot of Volvos.
You know, then there's the BMW, and then there's a couple of country pickup trucks, like American pickup trucks, which you do see in the country in some of these countries. Yeah. I thought the performances are all solid. I may not have liked a lot of these characters, but I did, especially as I watched it more and more, I really did buy them. You know, I may not have liked them. I may have thought, and this more goes to the story component, not the performance. Like, I mean, the Jespeler, I think that's his name, Jespeler. He played the father. He played Bjorn.
Okay.
Where am I here? Yeah. Oh, Jesper Barkselius. He played the father. I bought his anger. I bought the star, the lead, and co-writer of the film. I bought his inability to communicate after a while. I may have thought those characters were in the wrong time, but I did buy them. Like I did buy their emotion in that. So yeah, I thought that was great. I think one of the things I would criticize as far as the craft goes, and this is all still part of the polish of the film, I do think we got a pretty bad subtitle. Because there was some stuff where it's like, that's, especially in the beginning, where it's, what? I don't think that's bad dialogue. I bet you that's bad. That's a bad translation.
Yeah, could be. I didn't even think about that.
So I that would be one of my few criticisms of it all. And another thing, marketing. You know, it's like they did not, like, none of this thing is like you are not getting the movie you're sold.
Yeah.
Like this is same down to when they marketed it was Drive with Gosling.
Ryan Gosling.
Yeah.
Carey Mulligan.
Excuse me. You're not really getting a caper, cops and robbers heist film there.
Yeah.
You know? And even this, it's not a if it's a war movie, it's a crappy one. Like,
yeah.
You know, but that's, I mean, yeah. So marketing, I blame, or let's say marketing, I thought was bad, and I also thought the dub was bad. But as far as the craft goes, like, yeah, it was a perfectly respectable film, especially for only $2 million US, give or take. Yeah. You know, not bad at all. You know,
I wonder
great
what
use of extras. Even the extras felt real to me. Not extras, the smaller, the one-day player, the shorter parts. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I sort of wonder what it would be like to watch the dubbed version of this, because I typically hate dubbed. You know, like for anybody who's again tried to watch Let the Right One In, you know, are you a vampire? I tell you. You know, like just oh, and you know, it just doesn't work. But
I wonder, Jim. Like I thought this during the movie. I'm like, I wonder how it will change the American version that is being released, that was released by the same outfit. Like you and I, when we watched The Wave and The Quake, Norwegian disaster films. They were
That's
one
us.
of the releasing companies. That was us watching that stuff. One of the reasons why Norway is still a pretty regular a region to watch our videos. The same, let's say, global releasing outfit, Magnolia Releasing, I believe it's called, is the one who's releasing this in the States the other day, the 7th.
Okay.
Whereas, and I'm wondering if they redid, either redubbed or at least redid the subtitles. But they also may have aggressively cut the film. I got to admit, if I was buying this from these guys to present in my country, you know, would I cut it up a little bit? Would I say, all right, what more disaster stuff do you have? Or did that happen? Like, we don't know what was on the cutting room floor, eh? You know, was there more?
Yeah.
Like, we never once had a scene with the mom after she leaves. You know, did that?
Yes.
end up on
Yeah.
that,
That's
you
a good
know?
point.
So you I got to kind
And
of
often-
wonder what. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
I think a lot of times that mums are written out because they're complicated. You know, there's a lot of momless. I once is it King Lear? I asked this in high school English class once. I said, "Whatever happened to Mrs. Lear?" And he goes, "Wow, what a ridiculous question." I'm like, "It's not really a ridiculous question, but you know, like a lot of these, you know, major stories." And I'm not talking about like Bambi where the mum dies, you know, but a lot of times there's just not a mom, and I sort of wonder if it's a hard character to write, or what, or by including a mom, you think, you know, or by taking one away, it automatically makes it a weird situation. Because they just sort of like, that was the train she was on, and she's dead. Did they find a body? Who knows?
Let's put a pin in that, because there was more going on in that scene than just that, which went to hit. Like, I think they bumped her off that way in part to say something about him.
Oh yes,
and
okay.
his drama. But we'll talk about that later.
Sure.
But yeah, as far as the craft of the film goes, perfectly fine. Maybe even punching above its weight. You know?
Yeah, I think so.
Like, I mean, they weren't crashing any helicopters, and sometimes it looked downright entertaining. Near the end, when Dad Bjorn is in the plane, about to commit suicide, basically, with the Russian helicopter, there I was like, oh, and there's somebody with the light going through the... you know, in no way did I believe that he was flying. But that's a quibble. First, I just want to, before we move forward, Jim, if you're fine with that, there's this, first of all, I wanted to address this comment from Ahmed Jellyduck. Does that mean the flower season now comes in Sweden? That's a transliteration. I think there's something about that poem and Midsummer, that Midsummer festival in Sweden that's kind of about spring and renewal and memory and all this stuff, and that rain being and we're kind of getting into the theme maybe, but rain being part of this, and what happens with rain, things are washed away, and so, you know, we'll just put a pin on that. Richard L is bringing up an interesting point, and maybe but before we move forward into story, Jim, is there anything else you want to add to our discussion of craft and performance in that?
No, I thought I thought the main weakness here was the story, I think, and just the.
So,
but
as far as craft goes, I could.
As far as craft goes, I think so. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. I like that.
Thinking aloud. New format.
So, do you wish to continue a story now that we know we've?
Certainly.
And I think this is where some of these other comments we can get back into. But why don't you take a first crack at it, Jim?
So I'll just start off by saying this reminds me of, and I've probably mentioned this before, so forgive me if I have, but back in the 90s, Carla and I, you have shows that you watch together. One of them was ER. And on ER, there was 5 male main character doctors. There was some female doctors and nurses and administrators and stuff. But there was 5 male doctors. And for some reason, the writers decided to make 4 of them completely non-communicative. One guy had PTSD because he was Croatian or it came from the Yugoslavian war. One guy was beaten up in a washroom. Another guy was anyway.
ER.
Just
You're like, this is ER.
Yeah.
Oh, I think that's what you said.
Yeah, you had 4/5 of the male characters unable to communicate and in some sort of shell, where they couldn't
Which
discuss
is the whole
their emotions.
dramatic conflict that they're
You have to be able to.
incapable of.
Yeah, exactly. So in this one, and this reminded me of that again, is that the father's got PTSD, I guess, from his service, we're told. The son is a victim of that PTSD, so he can't communicate. The mother is sort of off in her own world, and they apparently can't, the father and mother apparently can't say to each other, hey, what are you getting, son, for Christmas? Okay, great. Let's not get him the same thing.
Yeah.
And
especially
which happens.
that he's making it in the shed that apparently no one goes in. What were they afraid that he was chopping other human beings up? Like, no one snooped in there, said, oh, that's interesting.
And nobody cleans it up for 20 years, or 15 years or whatever. Like, he literally goes in there at the end, 15 years later, and the temper tantrum that father had Christmas of 1997 or whatever, all the wood is still out, and it's not even dusty. But anyway, so you have all these characters bouncing off each other, and not even the girl he likes at school he's able.
The key thing, 2005.
Yeah, it was, yes, sorry, 2005.
Yeah.
But not even so. Yeah, I guess he was probably 15 or 16 then, or something. So
I think even 17
he's
or 18.
maybe late 20s or 30s by the time he's a world famous composer.
I think he's in his late. I think the way I read it, he was in high school then, because he did go to school one day after he couldn't talk to Anna, his girlfriend, the love of his life, who literally wrote a song for. He made something much like the father made something for him, but couldn't say that he loved her, much like the father can't say it.
Yes.
But he goes to what looked like a regular school, so I figured he was at least 16, probably 17 or 18, which is why the mom left him, abandoned him at home, and then he buggered off and was obviously able to get a job. And so add another 10
Moved
years,
to Stockholm.
he's 26 to 28, maybe 30 at the outside.
Yeah.
That was
and by the time we reach him, he's.
I slept on it.
Yeah. And by the time we get around to him in the current state, he's like a grumpy Chris Martin from Coldplay, but solo, and so with these big sort of anthemic, synth heavy songs. But so even him and Anna really. So in writing, and I don't know all
a daughter, a daughter who also is not connected with her mother.
Yes, yeah.
Because she's married to her career.
Oh, that's right too. Yeah, that's right too.
Stereotypes abound.
And which could have been an excellent break off character. The mom there, who apparently eventually becomes a cabinet minister or some such. Shades of the newer version of Battlestar Galactica, where you had the 37th person in power becoming president of all Earthlings. But but with this one, just there's no level of anybody connecting. Now, some writerly person would tell you that you have to have at least one connection. Just make one connection. Somebody's got to be able to talk to somebody. But in this case, they're all just sort of bouncing off each other, and it just, for me, it's so
Anna's
frustrating
grandma
to watch.
was supposed to be that.
Yeah,
Except she does it like she gets her opportunity way too late in the film for us to get bound to these folks. Do you think some of the other parts of the problem with the story, I'm just talking about that first 10 minutes, I found him unsympathetic. Like they drew that character. They drew his, what the heck is his name? I can't even remember his name.
Alex.
I think, thank you. Although I think that says something.
It's Alex and Anna.
Yeah, Alex and Anna and Bjorn. And then Kara, I think, is the mother who passed away. And then just Mum, the cabinet minister. But she doesn't, or he doesn't. Yeah, I just, by the 20 minutes in, we still haven't had any sign of the mystery other than some conspiracy nonsense from Bjorn, because it's fighting in the many Swedish wars of independence. But I don't, there's no, he's an unsympathetic character, even though he's a victim. Yeah. He's a victim, and you sympathize with him in the first 5 and even 10 minutes, and then it really starts to die. And it's like, okay, you're going to be a prick like your father. This sucks. As a human being, you're like, I still have to, hey, this guy was made by his context, Yeah, but not, I didn't, there's no character I could really sympathize with. Maybe Anna.
Yeah. No, she was the one kind of, just, I don't know, there's something lighter and easier to like about her. Alex had a bit of a punchable face.
Any responsibility. Well, and punchable behavior, I guess. It's not the face, it's what he's doing. It's the behavior driven behind the face that makes you want to poke at him. Anna, at least, you know what? I can forgive the night of passion with this crush that you haven't gotten over. That young love you haven't gotten over. Totally down with that. She, in part because she's like, I have a husband. I have my daughter. I have to, like, her and her mom, or her and her grandmother seem to be the only players who, like, must do things to, must go help my family or whatever. Like, the others, driven by their own selfish desires.
Yeah. I mean,
maybe Anna's mom.
And Anna at least actually seems to have different moods and different ways of expressing herself, and some of the other characters are sort of, and I'm not talking about the actors necessarily, but the characters, like the Alex character is not given, like, he basically is in one mood the entire movie, and I think he smiles or gives you some hint of something other than anger maybe once or twice, and anger or discomfort or disgust, and he treats everyone with sort of contempt, and his business partner he treats with contempt, and most of the other people. So
if he's
it's
nastily
weird.
Lying.
Yeah.
Like at times he pulls a couple of the character pulls a couple of greasy moves. Let's coming back to story a bit. Although it does sound like we both agree that he is hard, if not impossible, to like. Mm-hmm. Which I think you have to have some kind of, or if you're going to be a bastard we can kind of like watch in fascinated horror. It's like, oh my goodness, he wouldn't do that, would he? Yeah, he's doing it. Whereas the terrible things he does are just like, they're distasteful. They're just, I dislike you more. Walt and so let me just ask you the question, Jim. Going back earlier in the chat, Walton and Vlad65 and Richard L. brought up, they felt like this was a committee-made film. do you feel that like it's committee made?
Yeah, I think just in the fact that it didn't really have a single direction. It seemed to be overstuffed, like as if there wasn't somebody. And maybe that's an editor's job, but it felt like there's too much going on. I mean, the rain thing itself could have been its own movie. The family troubles could have been its own movie, and then the invasion could have been another movie. And instead of making a decision, they all just kind of went, let's just do all of them. And there doesn't seem to be any. It seems, I have no idea, but it seems that there was no, great decision making made. It's just sort of going off in different directions at the same time. It's a weird one, and it goes. And the rain thing is kind of odd because they bring it up late. They don't really talk about it too much. You think it's going to become some sort of focus, and so. But for the people who don't know, there's a chemical.
It gives Alzheimer's.
Yeah,
that's the short version.
It wipes your brain and
forget who you are, where you are, and what you're doing. If you don't just collapse outright, because remember the pilots in the helicopter, they just kind of lean forward and.
That's not really Alzheimer's, but that's
lot.
What they said. Yes, it's multitasking. Yeah, so it just seemed that it didn't.
You agree with the statement, committee made? Okay.
There needed to be harder decisions made.
Okay. I'm going to push back on it a bit. I agree that there's two stories here, although the rain thing I wouldn't say is necessarily a story as much as, well, actually, there's another movie that has this rain thing as it's the thing that, or not rain, as some sort of mist or something that destroys memory, and how these lovers try and maintain their relationship as, that's the big environmental obstacle they're trying to get over. Here, I suspect the rain thing was used as to heighten the stakes. The enemy was the enemy, this mysterious invasion. The rain was part of the sabotage and all the other amazing stuff these amazing invaders could do without anyone knowing what was going on. Myself, I thought there were two movies, and I really do. I kind of leaning towards the collective had some bonkers kind of disaster / and this is the overstuffed part, but I think they had a very clear vision of and if they just made their crazy ass invasion story, we might have been, wow, this is like, these guys are the next Mad Max. They're the next, not Mad Max, but give them some more money. Let's see what other crazy crap they can stuff into an invasion movie. Meanwhile, the other story is such an actor's story. I can see an actor going, I want to talk about this guy who was abused as a child. He was artistic, but he can't communicate. And there's a girl and parents, and he runs off to the big city, but then all of a sudden there's a death and he has to come home. And it does. I can admit, I want to write the movie of how these two, one said, let's, at least he's got a script. Can we slap our crap into his movie? Let's do that. Like it seemed like they're two visions fighting each other almost, which is all the more remarkable that they are actually to kind of come together at the end a bit and kind of go, wow, this is almost compelling. Too bad I don't care that they all die. Or, some die, some don't. It's like, good, you deserve it. Not one good memory, a little punchable jerk. Every artistic person with trauma in their background who's used that as an excuse to be an abusive prick later in life. So that would be, I'm not saying, I think when you see a committee-made movie, you see all the fingerprints of notes from the studio, and it becomes mush. And I don't think this is mush, actually. I think there's two fighting visions. There's two movies fighting here for primacy, And I think that's the problem. Whereas a committee-made movie it checks all the boxes, but doesn't feel like anything. And this, I can give this movie, it does feel like they want to do something,
Yeah, yeah. Well, even...
But yeah, that's all I'd say on that.
Like, even that aspect of it, that the cabinet minister who's Anna's mom, or she's a politician, I'm not sure if she's literally in the cabinet, but, and they say, oh, we're gonna take all the important politicians away in one vehicle, which seems like a smart idea at a time like this. And she goes like, no, and she sort of backs out. And that's a whole. Oh yes, yeah. But that's a whole kind of. As soon as that happened, I was super like, you're watching a movie, you're in and out, like a movie like this, and then that one I was back in. I'm like, okay, what's going to happen here? All right, let's follow this. This looks promising.
But that would be part of the invasion movie.
Yeah.
Like you would say, hey, that's a cool part of the invasion movie. She doesn't have to be a parent of anyone. She could just be, or in a good, in some of these movies, there's a reference to those kids that you may never see, or you only see at the end of a phone call shot once. Yeah. Or a radio, and then it cuts off. We don't see them. We just load the emotion into one character. That would have been fine. Again, there's two movies here fighting each other.
Yeah.
Now, Richard.
Yeah,
Ellis,
no, that's probably a good guess.
Well, just a guess. Like I said, guys, I'm pushing back, but not heavy duty. It's like I can see, and if I didn't keep thinking that they were so distinct, I'd probably be with everyone on the committee thing. But I just think this movie isn't mushy enough to be a committee movie. It's I think it was DMG refers to directing by committee always works wonders. Always works wonders. Just look at Suicide Squad. Now there's a movie I had no feeling about by the end of it, other than, well, that was a bit of a slog, but well, we're done. I'm hungry.
That was a movie.
Yes, exactly. Okay, Richard L. Let's before we move on, Jim. Okay, if we'll pull up some of these comments, because I think we're.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Okay, Richard L. says, curious about the hints of Russia as the culprit. Do you think it's because they got to find some bad guy, or is it deliberate Cold War-esque propaganda? Okay, Richard, are you saying, I want to make sure we understand your question here. When you say they got to find some bad guy, do you mean that the characters just have to blame someone? Or that it's part of the conspiracy that someone's trying to suggest it's Russians? Or, I'm not quite sure where you're coming from there. But if you can kind of give us a bit more clarification, I want to make sure we're answering your question. But please. Go ahead.
Just a question about that is that, was this, you were discussing earlier that maybe this was supposed to be Martians, and it turned out they couldn't do it. Martians. Aliens.
Yeah, sure.
They don't specifically have to be from Mars.
I wrote down as movies I was trying to think that this is like was When Mars Attacks.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, go on.
But,
Martians.
Is this invading force, and not really saying, well, I guess they did have Putin at the end, didn't they? I'm just thinking they didn't really talk about it tons, and I'm thinking it might be one of those cases where American movies are afraid of alienating Chinese audiences or Chinese politicians. Would this be did it seem this enemy that they sort of named but sort of didn't?
I think they were pretty clear on putting it on the Russians. The problem I had with it, and I'm not sure, this is maybe more in the meeting stage, although maybe this could kind of speak to story as well. I'm kind of sick of, like, it's like no one reads, no one pays attention to the news, no one, like, they made this in 2018. You have an enemy that can salt the skies themselves, the rain itself, with a super spreading, or not a super spreading, like a really sophisticated memory attacking Alzheimer's 22, and do terrorist attacks subtly where it's terrorist, but it isn't terrorist, and it's this and it's that. Like, there's this built into the story is a fantasy I'm sick of, especially when in 2018 they should have been going, no, the United States got played by an obvious lying con artist, and the Russians, who all they had to do was set up Twitter bots and Facebook horseshit farms. Like, the United States got its ass kicked, its government subverted by Twitter and an obvious con artist. And I say this with all due respect and all the love to our American watchers. Yeah, if anyone had been counting points and ended it at 2016, they went, oh, Russia's up right now. You don't need this sophisticated military operation. Like, even when they went after Crimea, they lied and took it. Like any of these massive conspiracies, it's really more just screaming, we're not stealing this country, as they walk in to steal a country. When they invaded, when they invaded Ukraine, they just invaded and lied. Paid off locals. You don't need the sophisticated thing, eh? So that said, so I'm kind of, what I think here, Jim, is we're missing something about maybe a center-right paranoia. Well, not maybe paranoia, worry about invasion in Sweden. Like, there's a cultural thing we're missing here. I think that's the big problem with this, is we're just missing something. There might be something in Sweden where they're just a lot more aware of their Russian neighbors and how unpopulated they are. They're like, Finland's a country away. It's just, Russia's too close. It has an outsized influence there, and much like we can be really weird about our relationship with the United States, right? Like, I mean, we can be just like, and I say this after my whole little thing here, coming from a very left-wing worldview. You've heard some crazy shit from Canadians about the United States and our paranoia at times, and it's like, oh, that's that, and it's like, heck, I've said some of it here. So I think we might be just missing something on this, but who knows? Richard may have clarified it, and this is nothing to do with what we're talking about.
And one interesting thing, my wife and I started watching Lupin on Netflix this weekend as well, and both here and there they mention different forms of the Islamic State. And that one's sort of more of a swashbuckly kind of fun thing, and they're still mentioning it here, there, and here they're mentioning it too. So two different European productions from different European countries, and they both mention
all those Syrian
terrorism.
Refugees, moving north and that. Like, there's a politic here I think we're just not quite picking up on. The even right down to her husband, who's got a complexion and a name that isn't necessarily fitting. Like, he doesn't look like your typical Swede.
Yeah.
And I thought it's like, that's noteworthy, Even, I would say, at the end, and they're talking about foreign troops on our soil while we're weak, and just the weird kind of caginess, and no one willing to tell anything. Yeah, I suspect this was a really popular movie in Sweden, much like The Way was a big deal in Norway. Like we do know how to pick them in this respect. So I suspect there's things going on. We're missing some stuff just in translation. There's cultural, political stuff going on here where we're not picking
Midsummer.
Up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then all the internal, domestic, international stuff from that corner of the country, the world. Yeah.
So I don't know. We might have actually answered Richard's question to a degree. I gotta admit though, it's like, if I had Putin as a neighbor, I'd probably think some crazy crap about him and what's in my water, because it's also it's another, whether it's it's the rain, but it's still what's in the water. What's this fluoride really up to? Yeah,
exactly.
We're all capable of thinking crazy crap. We may be just seeing Sweden's crazy crap.
Yeah. These microchips are delicious.
Exactly. Oh, we got somebody new in the house.
Go.
Mr. Judd, Curtis Judd, coming a little, fashionably late, like anyone with some style at a party. Okay, let's come back to DMG made a comment here regarding story, and it's about the ways American producers would, quote, Americanize, close quote, / ruin a foreign film when adapting it for the U.S. Yeah, but here I'm kind of wondering, I would like to know how different it was. Like, I mean, they weren't even, because it's not like they'd be adapting anything. Are they going to go, because they literally just bought the film. And plus, I think they already made this movie. DMG. This is Red Dawn in a way. I'm wondering if this is Sweden's Red Dawn.
Oh, yeah.
Remember the first one came out and it's like, the Cubans took over the United States. Sure they did. And again, mysteriously, midnight attack. We weren't prepared. We're incommunicado, all that stuff. And it's like, oh, come on.
Wasn't it Colorado, like center of the country too, or something like that? Like,
exactly. Parachuted in.
Let's just... We to skip over coast, go straight for Midland, where everything is controlled.
And then the reboot, they flew from an even a country in even rougher shape, farther away, North Korea.
But I think, and I may be wrong about this, I think it was supposed to be China.
Chinese.
Yeah, and then they thought, we might offend, whoever and the powers that be, and so they made a slight change. The Taiwanese are invading us again.
It was a tweak. Okay, Vlad65 says, Rich, interesting on the Russian theme, as there's also that Norwegian series about a Russian invasion. I believe, what is that on? Is that on Netflix, or it's on a service? I've clicked on it and then moved quickly on, but something that hits home with his Ukrainian background. Yeah, absolutely. But Walt, I think you'd agree. Like, the Russians just aren't that slick. They just, we'll pay some locals. We have our business interests, all the greasy, just some of the dirtiest people, dirtiest robber barons and kleptocrats. And we have an army, and we got to stay busy because our own economy is a joke. But we have a lot of guns. We can use that. Let's go steal a piece of Ukraine.
Yeah.
Okay. The very expensive and great potential series Vinyl imploded because the main guy was a total pain.
That's when we were talking about committees.
Yeah. Well, I think it was also the characters.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. The drama of all the directors movie could make a great comedy script. I think so. I think that'd be a great movie. How you can turn two great scripts into one bonkers movie, that makes no one happy. Okay. Richard comments afterwards. Okay. Are they hinting that Russia did the attacks because it's convenient to point the finger at Russia? Or is this movie really a warning that is trying to stir up wariness of Russia? Okay. We're going to pin this to meaning. Because I think there's a kind of weird political statement whether they meant it or not. Like, you know, yeah, that is an excellent question. And yeah, before we're going to remind me if I don't remember. DMG says they even canceled Justin Timberlake's music, Crimea River. Oh, good Lord. It's terrible. Crimea
you walked right
River.
into that one.
Oh, right in. I was like, ding. Oh, my eye. Oh, that's terrible. Okay. Richard, we might have answered, but I'm still going to continue because I think there's something you've got there. You've got a line on something that we'll bring up shortly. But yes, I would agree. Richard says, yes, I think you've answered. For me, hard to take a threat of Russian invasion as seriously in Sweden as in other countries like Ukraine or Belarus. Yeah, from my perspective, I would agree with you. What do you think, Jim?
Yeah, and I don't know if we'd really see much of anything from those countries, just being what they are. But you'd think it might be pretty interesting. I've always wanted to watch that Deutschland 83, which is on, I think, Crave, just about life in East Germany in the 80s. A little bit different, but yeah.
Yeah. But do you find it a reasonable? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Reasonable that Russia would, whether covertly or overtly, invade Sweden? Like, again, there's other countries that it's gotta.
Yeah, I don't know. They're not really. They'd have to literally skip over Finland first because they don't share a border with Sweden. I just took a look actually, and while we were talking, and I don't see that happening really. And there's water involved, and
It's almost you've got to throw in an oy vey.
It's like what
filming.
Don't film on the water or with live animals. Then you're good.
Katie Fowler says, not sure they were all coming from Sweden, but the reviews were either people who loved or hated the movie. One reviewer said the movie made them embarrassed to be from Sweden. Ooh, yikes! That's a tough one.
Yeah.
This is, you know what? Katie, can you remind us of this comment when we get into did the direct doors pass or fail? I want to come back to that. That's an interesting bit of research there. Richard L., favorite plot hole. Okay, this story relevant comment. One of ours was the bunker doors that seal, but then Alex and Alec come and go out the back door as they please. It did seem a little convenient.
Yeah.
Walt makes a comment that Sweden is in NATO. I forgot that. There you go. DMG. Oh, we're still talking about the invasion of Sweden, apparently. In order to invade Sweden, it'd be over before it starts. They'd have to cross the finish line to get there. Oh! Where's the rim shot when you need it?
It's better when you're not when you, Rob, are reading them out and you're not suspecting it, and then you can sort of see your reaction. The kind of the slowing down as you get to he's.
But it wasn't even slowing down with the Crimea. I just bam right into that. There's actually, when you ever had your glasses jammed into your nose, you're like, but I still need them on. Okay, let's move forward now, folks. You know what? Great lively again, Jim. Best chat on the internet. And before actually we move on to the meaning, let's shamelessly exploit this. And again, folks, if we if we could shamelessly beg you for a like. If you haven't already, please subscribe. And last but not least, don't forget to ring that bell.
I'm trying to do a reggae thing with a bell. I'm not sure I got there.
It's too bad what was that other Norwegian, the 12th man, when the reindeer were getting the guy over the border. Could have sleigh bells.
That's, yeah. I still have them here.
Okay, where are we here? Let's get into the meaning of this. From my perspective, Jim, like on the overt level, I mean, the best we could say that they meant it to mean was, and it was only really kind of clearly stated when they're fighting. Like, it's only fights later, like well into the second act or even in the third, where they're really just complaining, you don't call. Well, you could have picked up the phone. Like obviously this film about not keeping in touch and the constant references to being disconnected, incommunicado, not, and like one of the coldest moments of the film that is when the kid gets the call from his mom. There's been some sort of attack in the train, and then kid gets a call from his mom, hangs up, another explosion. Later, when we find out she's dead, the brothers basically say, or in the news story, they're saying the people were reaching out to their family.
Oh yeah.
Which is, it's just such a hammer, right?
Yeah.
And he's just a cold shit about it. And then still, later on, does not connect with doesn't do what he says he's going to do, connect with the father to say, hey, mom's dead.
Yeah.
Later on, he breaks the connection as Anna's husband is saying, is my family there? Are they alive?
Yeah.
It's
That's right too. Yeah.
And he's, I mean, so it's, if there's a theme here, it's that.
Yeah.
And
I think so.
But I'm almost like, by the end of it, I'm like, don't care. You shouldn't be connected. Oh, are you losing your memories? Good. Your fantasies about the past, your memories, they're half of what's driving this drama. Which shouldn't be about the insane invasion or what the hell.
Well, yeah, I mean, ideally that would dovetail with the invasion, and then something that something about him would affect how he reacted then, but it doesn't really come together. I guess if anything, you could say, that it's about the poisonous of the thorough poisonous of anger, and how it corrupts somebody to the point, even when lives are on the line. In the most important situations, it's gonna, make you do the wrong thing, perhaps.
It's
but
nasty, petty, resentment and selfishness.
Because he does not rise above it, really. I mean, he sort of tries at the end, but you give
him some points. 2 out of 100 fails. 2 points for at least he fessed up.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering if she lost her memory too, as her husband came to rescue her, and I'm assuming it's her husband. That So I it's pretty thin. What's the word? The pretty thin beer, is that what they say? But it's not really fully totally realized. I mean, it's there throughout just how corrosive anger is, but it doesn't really sort of dovetail with the invasion itself all that much. Well, I'm wondering, Jim, if I found in a way, like, they had one theme and they just kept hammering on it so much that but again, with an unsympathetic character, with the character you go, oh, if he just changed a bit, then if we could see a hint of growth,
Yes.
or somebody
Yeah.
trying. At no time, every time he's got a choice, he does the weasel thing, the shitty ex-boyfriend thing. And Anna, it's like, oh my God, Anna, you're still holding a torch, and what the hell, Grandma? Don't be telling this maniac this.
Yeah.
Like, don't sell her out now, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. No. Yeah. Well, it's
Especially if you're in Stockholm and he's in Stockholm, you don't go home to see if he'll come back. You reach out while he's in Stockholm. That's what you do, you know?
but better cafes. You know.
Yeah, really. You could both have a life of, you know, away from the village.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And this is coming back to a point I wanted, the Russian thing. And I'm not sure if it's intentional or if it's just one of those things where, again, maybe it was part of the politic of the invasion movie. Let's say we have the family movie about connection and disconnection. Then we have the invasion movie. In the invasion movie, the father, who apparently has a pretty good, he doesn't even sound like a nut when he says, well, I don't know, we're cutting off this power. The Russians will be affected, and we know they react. Whereas the rest are like, no, I will take the racist route. It's all these immigrants we let in. But that he is this broken down, drunk, abusive father and husband, is the one who can put that 2 and 2 together, and then later on says, I hate it when I'm always right. And it's like, you're not always right, you crazy old coot.
Yeah.
But you write that because you're saying something, whether you mean a meta saying or not, and it's just slipping out. I do think this is there's a bit of a right-wing kind of, and when I say right-wing, I'm not talking, maybe I am saying, kind of a right-wing sort of paranoia about Russia. And, because even some of the things later, we didn't know, and do we have enough defense? And, our military, at the end, our military is weak. So now we have foreign soldiers in our land, and it's like, believe me,
Ooh.
nobody, if they want to send troops there, it's only to enjoy and hang out in Stockholm and drink, like you say, better cafes.
Yeah.
Really like fish, no sunlight half the year.
Yeah. No, it's sort of be interesting to see the Swedish point of view on that, but
I think this is one where we could have used a Swede on screen with us going, no, you don't get it here.
Yeah.
What about the I did, and I was kind of being a bit of a smart ass, but being a little genuine, is maybe what they were trying to tie the two together was, like, there is that idea of rain as a cleansing thing, a thing that can change stuff, right?
Yeah.
And deleting old memories, or at least the emotion attached to old memories, can be a freeing thing as well, like kind of a clearing of the decks, part of, and apparently, like, if you think about PTSD, one of the things that one of the therapies tried for that is to sort of disconnect the habit of forever reliving the moment. Like these, and because part of that is when you're reliving the moment and reliving the emotion of the moment, and if you're not coding it into your identity and then moving forward, you're just rerunning down those same neural pathways. It just becomes all of a sudden reliving the horror is part of your natural habit. So when they look at these things, like there are, experimental therapies where it's like, okay, how can we maybe not stop you to forget, but at least when you're remembering it, you don't remember any emotion with it, so maybe, or am I giving these guys too much credit?
Well, unless you're flying a helicopter,
Well, exactly. Like
certainly the opposite of the Matrix, where instead of like putting that knowledge into your head, somebody's taking it out and you just crash, go nose first
and
into
then just
the
going,
Swedish
oh,
soil.
well, I'm nap time.
Yeah, exactly. But that's sort of an intriguing interpretation of that. The freeing of it. But I think it was more to incapacitate people. It's sort of an interesting thing too, because it's kind of hard to like for the longest while too. They just had cars crashing into people, and they didn't really explain it for about.
Continue, but I have a brainwave.
Sure. I just thought it took them a while to get to that because everyone's just smashing into each other and nobody knows what's going on, right? And
they're
the guys
catatonic in that.
Or they're like, "Where am I? Who am I? I don't know what I." So, and we didn't necessarily, or I didn't necessarily connect it with the rain right away. And
my crazy 2 movie theory. I have an interpretation that will lend itself well to it.
Okay.
Again, there's this, whatever they're doing in the rain, that's making people more kind of think The Happening, where, I'm just going to kill myself. I've lost the will to live, whatever. But then you're like, we got to bring these two together. Why don't we say Alzheimer's and no one knows what they're doing? They can't, and then that'll help us bring it together. Is the Alzheimer's memory thing the tacked on thing to what was, because we only see that behavior in the big action set pieces.
Yeah.
Action, so to speak.
Yeah.
Everything else, all the meaning moments, especially with our stars, are about it's the memory motif,
Yeah. That's true. A lot of the, and it's often, as opposed to the rainy current, they're in a golden light with that genuine midsummer light and that kind of thing. Especially, I sort of rewatched the last 5 minutes before we went on, and that's interesting.
So
Eternal Sunshine.
Go ahead.
Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. I mean, you could have smashed a bit of that into it too. It's just like. Who are you, Anna? It's nice to meet you.
Yeah, there's almost 2 movies going on there,
Yeah.
But that's exactly it. So I'm wondering if, again, I think that lends to my theory that they had 2 movie ideas and they negotiated this. And I really do think collective on one side, 5 guys, maybe kind of bro-y sort of dudes, going, we want an invasion movie to play with our fantasies of how could you invade Sweden without it knowing, because it's blind to it.
Listen.
Meanwhile, you've got an actor going, I need to have a movie about the relationship with my father and how I was abandoned, and I'm an artist.
We want to make 2 movies, but we only have enough money for 1.
Share. Yeah, the funding organization saying, all right, you boys, you share. Well, that's not fair. There's 5 of us, and I didn't call you a collective. You guys did. Guess what?
Cut to the editor. What?
Has to be. All right. Is there anything else, though, to say about what this film means? I do think it's kind of still that, and I'm starting to wonder if there's a Scandinavian thing about justifying terrible fathers. Because Bjorn, yes, you know what? You can say he did actually sacrifice himself. He did actually seem in the end to care about his son. He did seem affected when he heard his ex-wife had passed away.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's like, but just like in the Quake, where we're going, that guy's a shitty father. Like,
Yeah.
why does he get a chance for redemption, and the artist's son is the weasel?
Yeah.
You know, and I don't want to take it like you said though. Like, I mean, and I think it's on purpose. Like, it's written that way, or written. The story we see, the performances we see, the whole mise en scene is this. Of all the detestable characters, he's the most detestable. And it's like, could we not have like a Scandinavian film where the woman isn't addicted to an idiot or a weasel or a bastard? I'm starting to, at the beginning of the film, you kind of think the mother, it's like, really? You're leaving your son? By the end of it, it's like, oh, yeah, I kind of get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Shitty husband who, if he hadn't hit you before, was going to eventually do it. You know, it was time to
It was
get
coming
out.
up. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
And then Anna going, no, he's a broken soul that I could repair. Like, can we give her more credit? Although by the end of the film, she does. She's like, no, I'm taking my mom and we're going to find my daughter and my actual husband, if he isn't dead, because I have family that I want to be connected to.
Yeah.
You know? I don't know.
Yeah, which he was sort of dismissive of as well, I think. But my daughter's in daycare. I just have just 2
Walt's
minutes
got to
over
run
there.
in 15 minutes.
That was about 10 minutes ago, I think.
Okay. Vlad, thank you so much for coming, for being part of the chat, for joining us as a colleague. That makes us sound fancy. That makes us all sound fancy.
The name we've confirmed is Walt's Flicks Picks of the channel or the show, or
I don't know.
I
I've
haven't
confirmed shit. Like, I literally saw the email before
Okay.
I had to get on
Just
the
before.
show, so I haven't even seen it.
Gotcha. Okay.
I'm looking forward to seeing it though. That is
Yes,
so
yeah.
cool. All right, let's
Absolutely.
yeah,
Congrats.
Walt,
I'll check it out. We'll talk to you later, Walt. Or
you bet,
yeah.
man. Okay.
Vlad/Walt.
Well, looking forward to Vlad 65 being a guest co-host.
Yes.
At a show coming here soon. All right. Okay. Let's kind of rewind back. The chat was pretty active. Now Walt said, okay, here. When Russia invaded Finland before World War II, thousands of Russian dead and fired generals.
Yeah.
Okay.
They killed hold on. Russia invade. Yeah, because they were using the war as a reason to
As a
invade
pretext.
Finland.
Yeah.
So
But
technically,
the winter,
Finland was on the Axis side.
Finland held them off.
Yes.
But come summer and we can get in trucks. The dynamics changed.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, Comedy Gold going back and forth because we do have the best chat on the internet. They're having their own adventure. Richard L. says, I think this could have worked better as a TV miniseries in which they spend more time building out the characters before eventually getting to the invasion stuff.
Yeah.
You know, that's a killer idea. Eh? I'm
I
thinking
agree.
about what you said, Jim.
Yeah.
You know,
I
when
thought that exactly.
Yeah. Well, it makes me think about when you talked about when the cabinet ministers introduced. Yeah, we could have all these intersecting stories, you know, building up the political conspiracy, having these terrorist things go on, and what's going on in the government drama, and then what's going on in the country, and then there's this artist, this pianist, and his old love, and oh heck, and then it can be all about her going, which do I choose? The stable father of my daughter, or
Kim?
the artist, Kim, the artist. Yeah. If Walt's still with us, Vlad's still with us, these people don't change much. And going back to, I think, what we've all, in a miniseries, they could. You could actually have them be weasels for a while. Heck, even our lead, our star, Alex, could have been a weasel throughout the whole movie and takes a sacrifice play to to save everyone, which Bjorn got for whatever reason,
Yeah.
because he does everything for his family. What? Yell and scream at them and have crazy conspiracy theories about Russians?
Make guitars and then destroy them on Christmas.
Oh, DMG is hot tonight. American producers ruining Swedish cinema, turning the Greta Thunberg story into Aaron Brockovich 2. It's good. Although I enjoyed Aaron Brockovich. Although that was a good movie. Okay.
Starring Julia Roberts as Greta Thunberg.
Oh. Yes, Waltz Flicks picks The Cruel Sea. And that is a great pick. Okay. All right. Richard L. A TV series we like that does well blending family drama with political intrigue is Trapped from Iceland on Netflix. Have you watched it, Jim?
I shouldn't say I watched the whole thing. It's one of the ones that Carla watched, and it's one of those, I'd be doing my own thing, she'd be watching it, and I'd walk through the living room with a bowl of craft dinner and go, "What's this?" And you sit down and you end up getting
there for a while.
Yeah, you're just like, "Oh, this is good." So I didn't catch every episode. Just sometimes I work at night, so that's typically when she's better at binging than me. So. She goes through things pretty quickly, but I meant to go back and watch the whole thing. But what I saw, it was super. I saw about half of it, I guess, but super intriguing.
Right. Well, listen, I think now's the time, Jim. If it's cool with you, before we move on to our own Ed game, let's first of all one more time let's beg for a like. You know what? You get a like, subscribe. Maybe one more ring. That bell. Everybody, it's that time where we talk about what we're going to be watching next week, and I think that means I'm going to give my wonderful
I'll go the other way
here. Oh no, it won't come over. You and I are clear.
Okay.
What are we? Jim,
oh, that's right.
What are we watching next week?
A new setup. Amy Adams in The Woman in the Window.
Yes, it will be on Netflix May 14th, 15th, 16th. No, 13th. May 13th, my bad.
Before next weekend, anyway.
Before next weekend.
Yes.
Based on a book, if memory serves. Kind of a mystery thriller.
Yeah, so we're getting more back into the genre kind of stuff, I guess, after some somber reviewing. Well, not all somber, but pre-Oscar stuff. But
pre-Oscars, a little more into what hopefully. You know what, Jim? I'm not. Sorry about this. I'm not definitely one of those people who thinks it's the film can only entertain, or it can only inspire, or it can only. I was entertained in Judas and the Black Messiah. The small axe movies were entertaining, but they're a big, heavy kind of Nomadland. Notwithstanding my feelings about it, there's a lot to chew on there, and it's not there to go, "Oh, that was a lovely evening." None of those films are. Whereas, we're into the, well, that was fun, or not, and the not is we get to be righteously indignant about,
I want my money back, Netflix.
Exactly. Well, we did pay for this thing. We did. It was a renter. Anyway, folks, yes. Well, so yeah, that's as Jim said. It's called The Woman in the Window. It'll be on Netflix for next weekend. Check it out. Come back here. Same Sunday, Sunday, May 16th, 9:30 p.m. Central Daylight Time, Universal Coordinated Time -5, where Jim and I and the best chat on the internet will be overanalyzing this interesting kind of mystery thriller about a memory serves. It's about a woman with agoraphobia, extreme agoraphobia, who kind of rear window-esque has to solve something happening just outside her door that she can't leave. Dun dun dun. All right, let's.
What will happen?
Nice song, eh?
A little bit of Elliott Smith kind of vibe there.
Well, I'm also kind of like dun dun dun, and then this song starts. It's like,
Yeah.
oh.
It's a murder
Total.
mystery.
Total shift.
I
Well,
Further
this
to
be
that-
great at the beginning of our movie, or
This
the
is-
midsummer celebration part.
This is like a coming of age thing, kid walking home from school. It was that summer that I learned all about life. Anyway, I'm just freestyling here. I do have to say, though, I love when Curtis came in and we mentioned his name and then we had like a rap-like track come in. Like, big Curtis Judd hip-hop entrance.
Now you're gonna have to replay that part. I did not catch that play.
Oh, it's very
right.
subtle, but
Yeah. Jim, with your permission,
sure.
actually, I'm going to save this comment for final thoughts. Never mind.
Sure.
Let's, you go first. Directors. Did they pass or did they fail?
I think in this case it is probably closer to a fail than a pass. I'm too easy on these movies, I think, so I'm okay with giving this one the thumbs down. Again, if you want to watch it, go nuts. It's also, again, it's good to watch movies from foreign places, but I'd give this one a fail.
Katie mentions in the chat, supposed to remind you about my bit here, and I cannot remember what it was.
Uh-oh.
Katie,
So much going on.
Can you elaborate? Can you cut and paste? Because I'm like, I'll spend 10 minutes hunting.
Oh no, Rob got rained on.
Yeah. Oh, that rain fell quite some time ago. And then, of course, DMG with yet another DMG cut here. Amy Adams has agoraphobia. Oh, is it a GOP with Trump horror film? Dear Lord, that's terrible. That one I did not walk into. I read it and I was like, you know what? We should still note it. All right. Oh, the Swedish movie review. Katie talked about that love or hate this film. You know what, Jim? I don't know how you can love this movie. I think you could love parts of it. Hate, it's always easier to hate it when you think you've wasted your time, right?
Yeah.
I can't say, though, that I hate this movie. I think, but I wonder if half of that, though, is honestly because of what we do with our, like, we kind of make our time spent on the movie good going through this process. Like,
Yeah.
But it is, oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, very rarely do I watch something and say, "Oh, that was a complete waste of time." Even something like we were talking about the Suicide Squad there earlier. Adam Beach, Winnipeg representing. There's always a performance, or there's always a shot, or there's always a costume or costume. Something that's worth watching. A moment in it, even that is worthwhile, I think, and I rarely hate something 100%, but
There's parts of this worthy of praise, as much as I'm complaining about it.
yeah,
I do think the performances are solid. I didn't, and this is, this is all laid at the director team's feet.
yeah.
really, guys, the father figure is like from a different time, and I'm not talking the knots like this. I defended my country from what? I'm not saying the guy didn't do his national service, but this idea of like this kind of character that's almost a set this after World War II.
Yes,
You know,
yeah.
Set this after World War II. A lot of other stuff would work really well. Then I'd be like, oh my God, this is a film for the ages. A Swedish kitchen sink family. Do they come together? Don't they? Do they? This is how they can destroy each other. Blah blah blah. You know, wow. You know, yeah. I think this is. It's weird. They could have just picked. No, we want to do our crazy right-wing fantasy invasion movie, and I think that could have been a bonkers fun film. They obviously have the craft skills, and I'm even gonna say that there's storytelling skills in here. They can't have both. I don't mean they just can't have these two stories come together unless they can get the gazillions they'll need for that mini series. But otherwise, it's like, gentlemen, make your goofy invasion movie, or make that family drama that you want to make. You know, that slice of life that, in a weird way, coming of age, like a biopic for a person who doesn't exist.
Yeah.
That could have been really cool. Or, find the money to turn it into a miniseries. Write it into a miniseries and sell it to whoever the Swedish broadcaster is there.
I think that's the better solution,
So, but coming back to Katie's comment, why I thought it was appropriate here, this is the kind of movie where I think it's almost like I could see somebody saying, this makes Sweden look bad. Because there's always those folks that are, you know, a little too worried about how strangers will think about them. And I'm not saying I never thought that myself. Until I'm like, oh, this is embarrassing to Canada. Perhaps a previous prime minister or two. You know? And then loving it because look at what Sweden did. It was a super popular film in Sweden. Like we might be missing something here, you know?
And it might be some of the Homer effect, right? You know, it's you know, oh, I know that road, you know, that kind of thing was.
Yeah. No, that's true. I know those actors, and it is that they're well acted. You know, it's one of those things where it's almost like, oh, this is terrible. Yeah, I'll make it work.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks though, Katie, for reminding me, and then reminding me of what I needed to be reminded about.
It's that rain.
Yeah, my way too long answer. Yeah, I think this is a fail. A fail, but I'd be interested in seeing if they had just picked a genre film. And as far as the actor goes, you know, to write something that's he just writes something that he cares about and then gets it produced. I'd be excited for that too. You know, I thought it was, a lot of parts to two great movies in here, Jim.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can't say a director passed when they couldn't make that work, when they chose a terrible thing to do.
Pick a lane.
Yeah, pick a lane. All right. I guess it's now final thoughts. With your permission, I'd like to go first here.
Go ahead.
As I was watching this, all I could think of is this makes me like Love and Monsters all the more.
Uh-huh.
Again, people, for the most part, helping each other out, not being selfish. Like, there's actually a scene in there where a volunteer, one of the nice people in the power station, gives a little old lady a blanket, and an old man pulls it out of her hands immediately after. Of course, no one does anything. And it's like, that's obvious. Like, it's that whole idea of it all turns to shit and everyone's just selfish.
Yeah.
The
I remember that.
other guy who, going back to, I'm not 100% sure I would necessarily describe it as a plot hole, the getting in and out of the back door. I will say this, it's like, yeah, so you decided, buddy, you know where the other exits are, but you're like, no, you're right, my wife should be out there alone. And well, works out for her, works out for her, I don't know. You know, his own wife. And then, of course, he drives out, and she's like, she doesn't know who she is anymore because she was stuck out in the fucking rain.
Yeah.
You know, it's whereas, so it's like a whole world of assholes, hardly any good people, whereas Love and Monsters, the exact reverse, the paranoid kind of, like, and also another thing where it's like, it came down from the sky, the chemicals that mutated the beasts, but this idea that you could almost say Love and Monsters is a weird metaphor for the way we live our lives now. We're so disconnected from nature that we're terrified of it as we live in our bunkers. And in a way, Love and Monsters is saying, no, go outside. You can manage them. Don't go feed the effing bear. Yeah, it's gonna
Yeah.
up. Even that elk isn't trying to kill you, but could. You know, that moose could. But it's not something necessarily, something to respect and be in, but not necessarily be hateful of. Whereas this love, like, it goes to the same place of love, that teen love. And, you know, I love the way it dealt with it in Love and Monsters. Character growth and realistic character growth. And here it's like, what do you mean she always loved him? Why?
Yeah.
What was lovable about this guy? He
Yeah.
didn't even give over the thing he wrote for her, that he apparently could teach himself strictly by touch and play like he's genius.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I oh, go ahead.
Maybe it was the 15 the hairpiece befitting a 15-year-old when he had that sort of like little mop on the front.
The terrible bowl cut.
Yes.
Yeah.
Bowl cut.
So for this, it makes me appreciate Love and Monsters all the more, because it leans into all those tired assumptions that were basically awful. We need a crazy nut who is right about the enemy. You know, this idea of an enemy out to get us and subvert us because we, you know, the politicians don't know what they're doing, and it just, yeah, I love Love and Monsters all the more. So refreshing. Yeah. Well, at the same time, also another one that I think delivered on genre expectations. I know some folks and folks in our chat, I've seen a couple of other reviews where they felt it was way too predictable, and I'd still like kind of go, yeah, I'm okay with that predictability because I think they were doing something different. Whereas in this movie, it's almost like they didn't want to. When you make a genre film, you do have to understand the genre expectations. And I'd say this movie didn't really understand. Like, if it's an invasion movie, you got to find out pretty quick who the bad guys are. If it's a mystery, be a political thriller and give us those things. If you want to do a disaster movie, because, hey, the invasion had a chemical that mutated and gave everyone Alzheimer's, do that. But then deliver those genre expectations. And here, I don't think they understood the genre expectations. Unlike Love and Monsters, which was touching those, tagging them, giving us little shout outs, even in casting, little bits of casting. It's like, God damn, that movie deserves a chef's kiss. Whereas this, not so much. Anyway, those are my final thoughts on this bit of nonsense.
Yeah, good final thoughts.
What about you, my friend?
Mine, I sort of wonder if I've seen a lot of Scandinavian TV, actually, in the last couple of years. There's an excellent one on Crave, which is HBO for us up here in Canada, or partial HBO anyway, called The Investigation, about it's a true crime one about the woman who was murdered on the supposedly murdered on the homemade submarine, and that's excellent. Like, we got totally into that one. And there's several others. I like Wallander. That was a few years back. It's an English production, but it's set in Sweden, what have you. But so yeah, I shouldn't count that one. But there is some pretty good Scandinavian TV. You can find some of it on CBC Gem if you're in Canada. But I sort of wonder if TV is the way to go for some of this Scandinavian content, for lack of a better term, rather than movies. We've seen some decent Scandinavian movies lately, but yeah, I sort of wonder if TV is the way to go at this point. The Investigation, start with that one. That's a great one.
Even just at least for this, could have been. We could see this as a miniseries.
Yeah. I could easily. Yeah.
Really interesting miniseries. There have been plenty of war miniseries that have intertwined the same stuff, war and prelude to war, that have done a really good job, like a period, whether they be set in World War II or in a fake war like this, fantasy war, whatever the hell I want to call it. Who knows? And smarmy Putin going, our economy is stabilizing. Yeah, no, it could have been a great flick.
Yeah.
I think anything else you want to add, or?
No, I think we've covered most of it.
Yeah, we've gone to town. What do you think, folks? Would love to hear from you in the. I'll ask you, Jim, and I put this out to everyone in the chat. What do you think of our new structure, where we talk about craft, then story, then meaning? I'd love to hear. I love to hear what you guys think. Jim, what did you think? First time that we kind of took this new, kind of more, let's say, more balanced approach to our analysis.
Good. I'm going to have to alter my note taking a little bit, but in terms of just sort of the craft aspect, sort of making it more general. But it works. You got 3 chunks, that we sort of break it up into. So that's good.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Not too fine.
I'll still be trying to bring in. Hey, if we haven't heard anything about the sound, we should talk about the sound. But yeah. Okay. I don't know. I think like I said, anyway, folks, yes, like I said before, please comment down below. We want to hear what you think about our new format. We only want to hear compliments about DMG and our new what's on your radar segment. That will be, like I said, probably 3 times every 2 months. No less than once a month, just to get some other views in, talking about, giving us all a better idea of what's coming out in the next little bit. And you know what? I don't. Oh, look at this DMG. I wonder if maybe there's some great self-promotion here. DMG says, like both formats, but this one flows really well when bringing in guests with dragon in the name. I'm really glad I read that one cold. And I'm glad he gave me what I was hoping, which is for some shameless self-promotion.
Well, delivering well.
Yes, fantastic. Alrighty, everybody. I will once again say thank you all very, very much for joining us. I think it's time to take chat off the screen, and for Jim and I to say thank you all very much. Ahmed, thank you for dropping by. Really glad you made it. DMG, Thanks, man. Thanks both for hanging out
thank
with
you.
us, bringing your particular wit and wisdom and your analysis and your insight into our chat, and of course for being our inaugural What's on Your Radar guest. That was awesome.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And then, of course, also the smart remarks about Swedish sinks and IKEA. I, of course, finally came up with something halfway witty. It was a flat pack in the background of Anna's home.
Flat pack.
Katie and Richard, Katie Fowler, Richard L. Thank you both, 2/3 of the Balmoral Street Research Irregulars. Thank you both so much for coming, for bringing your insight, your questions, and just being part of the best chat on the internet.
Absolutely.
Who else?
Curtis?
You know what? Walt, Vlad65. Again, I'll put a link. Check out his new channel. That is awesome. And yeah, subscribe to him after you subscribe to us. And then yes, Curtis Judd. So happy you could make it by. I hope you enjoyed yourself. And everybody, yeah, check out his channel, especially if you really want to deep dive into audio for video, and then, but don't spend too much time there. Others see how crappy my audio is, and I just don't want that to happen. I want you all to think that I do everything perfectly. One visit at Curtis' channel, you go, oh, Rob, yeah, perfect is not the word we would use. Anyway, is there anyone else I'm missing, Jim? I think I got everyone. Everyone in the chat. Yeah, okay, well, again, thanks, everybody. I think it's time.
Thanks, folks.
I'm going to turn down the tunes.
Happy viewing.
Take this off.
Happy Mother's Day.